Thanks for listening to Curious Cat, the podcast that examines the shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. Join us every week as we explore what it means to be a soul in a meat suit. Welcome to Curious Cat. This week, we have a very special guest who embodies the essence of Curious Cat. She is a produce and chicken farmer, but she's also doing spiritual work, which began with grid healing and evolved into world building. I'm not sure what all that means yet, but she's here to explain everything. She reached out to the show after listening to the episode Mind the Gap, and I absolutely cannot wait to talk to her and hear what she has to share. I'd like to welcome Becca Dickens of Regenerative Life Farm to the show. Welcome, Becca. How are you today?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. I'm so excited to talk to you. I'm so grateful for the work that you do, and I love your podcast. And I feel like we resonate, and this is just the perfect day for us to talk.
I feel like that too. And how is the weather there today?
It is nice weather. It's not too warm, and we got a little bit of rain. It's been very dry, so it just felt such relief to I could feel the soil, just happy to be getting that rain.
Isn't that true? And the air smells so fresh, even after a short spritz. Yeah. Seattle was a little too warm for me. I was a whiny little vampire baby up here because it was so sunny and warm. And I'm like, please give me some rain. And it did. It delivered. And I feel the same way. Like my whole yard is just singing. The birds are so excited to be digging up worms and things. So it just brings me joy too. So I wanted to begin at the beginning. That's always my theme. And, you wrote me the most beautiful email. I loved it so much. It really did resonate. I feel like our conversation is going to be great because of that. But you said in it that you left a jet-setting corporate job to jump into farming. So can you take us into that moment, like what it looked like before, and which is probably talking about an old version of yourself that's so weird, and then how it got you to where you are today?
Yes, it's trying to explain my crazy life in a short time. It's hard to do. But yeah, the short version is I grew up in a very small town in Illinois. And after I went to college, I taught English in Europe. And so I lived in Spain and Prague for a few years. And I came back to the United States, but I moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is a really magical place. And I just there became an IT project manager was what my job was called. I managed projects of software developers and people who were writing software. I didn't write software, but I helped manage their projects. And I worked for some international companies and one company that made software for airlines. And so I traveled to airlines all around the world and got to do big projects with fancy airlines. And it was a really big, important job. I don't have children. I'm in my 50s. And I have been married, and I was married in Albuquerque. And so I had a normal life, I guess. Very fancy job. It was really my whole life was my work. The other thing that was a big part of my life was alcohol. And so I think to bring in the spirituality a little bit from the time I was a little girl, I hear a lot of spirits. I hear a lot of things and sense a lot of things that I didn't know what to do with. And when I was a very, very small little girl, I started reading. And the whole time before I started drinking alcohol, I read obsessively. I read books all the time. I walked around the house holding a book. I read a book in the bathtub. I read a book when I brushed my teeth. And I really was trying to not hear the voices in my head. And so I was just living in books. And then I found alcohol. And I had just a very small life, I guess, a fancy job, and I put all of my energy into my job. But other than that, I didn't have good relationships with my partners. I didn't have friends. And I lived away from all of my family. So it was just me and my job and alcohol for most of my adult life. And very strange set of circumstances, various things. I had things reached a crisis in 2013, and I was, a big bad ending to my drinking career. But I was able to stop. And for about 6 months, it was just suffering. For the first time, I had to be alone with my thoughts, and I couldn't escape. And I couldn't really read. It was kind of like having a constant panic attack. And I just thought, I could die, I could drink again and die, or I'll just see if I can bear this. And I guess I didn't feel any hope, but I felt that hope existed. So one day, I just felt a little spark. I was driving and I went over an overpass and it kind of had a little bump on it. And I felt that little bump when I drove over the overpass, and my heart, it kind of stayed up. I felt like I was floating just for a little bit in my car. And I thought, what is that? I want more of that. So I went on an awakening path. I started to feel better from not drinking. My brain started to clear up. I started to get healthier. And then I eventually gave up sugar because I felt way better physically, way better mentally, but sugar seemed to still be, I was having a lot of headaches and just had a very big sugar addiction. I stopped eating sugar completely for a while, no carbs. Oh my goodness, my brain cleared up. I just got smarter and smarter. I felt like a miracle was happening. I could think so clearly. Things that were confusing to me with social interactions just felt easier, and people got kinder. And so I went on this. I just started wanting more and more and more. I stopped with sugar. I started learning about clean eating and giving up processed food, just going farther and farther. At the same time, I started going, Albuquerque is a very spiritual place. And there were meetup groups, just of people saying, a meetup group was just an app where you could say, let's have a little club, and it helped people get together. And so people would say, let's have a club of people who want to learn how to channel. And I went to a crazy one, this man named Amjad Fatemi. He just said, I'm having a club called Expansion of Consciousness. And I thought, I want some of that. And he became my teacher and expanded my consciousness. And it just kept going and going and going. So I stopped drinking in 2013. Then in about 2016, it was during that crazy presidential election. And I was at the gym on the treadmill, and there were 20 TVs in front of me. And I just heard a voice in my head. All the TVs were showing politicians and people arguing about them. And a voice in my head said, you can't watch TV anymore. And so since that time in 2016, I haven't watched television. And I stopped going to movies also. And again, my brain cleared up, and I felt it got so clear. And then about 2015, I guess 2015 to 2017, just a lot of crazy things happened. One was that my dear dad got diagnosed with Alzheimer's. He's still alive and he's still fine. But there I was in Albuquerque. My dad was in Illinois. His brain still worked, and they told him that Alzheimer's was the slow progressing kind. But I thought, he only has so many years left where he has his brain, which I loved his brain. And me and my dad took a trip to Paris because we both love museums. It's been something we always related on is art. So we traveled to Paris together, just the two of us. And it was wonderful. I came back to Albuquerque. My marriage was pretty much ending. And I also, just because of my awakening process, I realized I can't work in offices anymore. I couldn't stand the fluorescent lights. I couldn't stand the office politics. I couldn't stand that writing software. It just seemed like nothing was real. I just thought, this is all just crazy. So I got divorced. I decided to leave my career because I was so interested in food. I had this friend who used to be a project manager like me, and I saw her one day, and she had this light shining out of her. Her name is Wilma, and she had always looked just like me, just an unhealthy, normal person in her 40s and 50s. But she just had this light shining out of her, and I said, "What's different about you? You look wonderful." And she said, "I'm going to nutritional therapy school." And so I said, "I'm going to nutritional therapy school." So I decided to leave my career and become a nutritional therapist. It is basically food is medicine. And so it's just treating medical problems with food and creating health instead of treating sickness. So I started this course, and I decided I'm moving back to Illinois to live with my parents. I'm leaving my career. I'm getting divorced. My mom came out to Albuquerque. I sold my house to my ex-husband. We put all my stuff in a U-Haul, and me and my mom, like Thelma and Louise, drove back across the country. I moved back to Illinois. I was 50 years old, unemployed, living with my parents, divorced, and I had decided I was going to be celibate and single for the rest of my life. I just said I'm not interested in that anymore, and I really felt at peace with that decision. I wanted to be a nutritional therapist. I was studying Buddhism. My awakening was continuing. It was just wonderful, magical time, and I just rented a little house and was living there. I found I missed very much in Albuquerque. I missed things about the big city. I went back to a very tiny town in Illinois, the middle of nowhere. And so I found like one yoga class and kind of had some women that I resonated with who, would let me talk about spiritual woo-woo stuff. And I had one friend there, and I just kind of wore her out talking to her about food as medicine and my awakening. And I'm kind of an obsessive person when I start talking. And one day she said, "I want you to meet my cousin." And she said, "I think you guys would have a lot to talk about. He's a gardener." And I thought, well, I'm not really into gardening, but okay, I'm open to anything. She drove me to this house where I live now, a beautiful garden. There's a man who is a lot younger than me, who had on mirrored sunglasses, and he looked very grumpy and forbidding, but he had a beautiful garden. And me and him started talking about food as medicine and all of our beliefs, and we just stood staring at each other talking for 2 hours. And my friend just kind of wandered around. And I said to him, "Are you selling any of this produce in your garden?" And he said, "No, it's just for my friends and family." And I said, "Well, we should start a market. We should sell it." The first day we met, I said we should sell it. And I did a very strange, witchy thing, too. I had no interest in him romantically or anything. I thought I'll become his partner and help him have a market and sell his produce. And I had driven over there with the windows down with my friend, and my hair had gotten all tangled. And I started running my fingers through my hair to get the tangles out, and I had a big wad of hair in my hand. And for some reason, I threw it down into his kale, which is a very rude thing to do because that was people's food. I threw my hair into his kale.
Etiquette? What's the etiquette on kale? I mean, there's really no book written yet, so I think it's good. It is witchy.
And I thought to myself, this will be good for the garden, and I totally forgot about it. And we exchanged numbers, and he called me later, and he said, "I found your hair in my garden." And he was perplexed. But very soon after that, we became partners, and we started selling produce that very summer. Our farm has grown every year. Now we sell at 2 markets at the farm every week and at a farmer's market. at some point we bought chickens, and now we have 330 chickens, and they're pasture raised, and we sell eggs as grocers, and the business is just growing and growing and growing. We've been going for 5 years now. It's called Regenerative Life Farm. Our motto is regenerating our soil, our community, and ourselves.
Oh, how beautiful. Well, and I will link to, you sent me a YouTube link to an interview where your partner was taking them around the farm. And it was just, I was so in love. And I was like, to have another life and be a chicken on your guys' regenerative life farm would be the perfect thing, because they have this, I don't even want to spoil it for people, but it is luxurious. It's amazing. They're so protected. They're also doing their part to like fertilize the land. And it's just so special what you guys are doing. And tell people what happens with some of your surplus harvest that you have.
Yeah, we are able to grow more than we're able to sell. And we're really hoping that people around here will all start eating this way, but they're not yet. And so we have made friends with just so many angels have come into my life. That's what it is when you're on this journey. You just meet angels everywhere. A woman named Mary Beth who works for the extension office, and she delivers our produce to over 50 different food pantries around the state. And
oh
so
my gosh.
Yes. So many people, and she's crazy. Her job, she kind of does a lot that is beyond the purview of her job. Like one time she went to a produce auction and they just had a whole bunch of leftover cantaloupes. She filled her personal car with cantaloupes and drove them to the food pantries so that people who couldn't afford to eat a cantaloupe otherwise were able to have cantaloupes. She filled her car with them. It must have made a terrible mess. And
she truly is an angel. Because when you have people that are at getting their nourishment from food banks, that's where they're always sorely lacking, is the fresh produce. And that piece being added is truly a godsend to every single person that receives it.
Yeah, I think food is becoming something that only rich people have access to. I mean, good food, whole foods. It truly is. And
it's
not
wrong.
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's keeping them in a cycle of sickness and poverty to eat that way. And so, she makes it easy. All we have to do is harvest it, and she comes and puts it in her car and drives it around. She has contacts all over the place and is able to move that produce and eggs. She gives, sometimes we have extra eggs as well. So,
and her name is Mary Beth, and she sounds truly like an angel.
Oh, you should see her. Yeah, she is just an amazing person.
I love this, and I love you sharing this story, and I love the bravery that you had with not being afraid to just completely reinvent yourself and shedding the things, like being aware of the things that weren't serving you and your brain and your body and your spirit, and then just shedding them with bravery, because it's scary stuff. Like I had my opening. I was always kind of open to things, clearly. But when my father passed away, it's like that just opened up everything. And the first thing you think is, I think I'm going a little bit crazy. So you're looking for sources of information that kind of verify what your experience has become. But to have it like be every aspect of yourself, that's pretty brave. And also, I don't know why, but I need to tell you this, is like that early version of yourself and up to now and forevermore, you are very lovable. You're so lovable. And I feel like you realize you're lovable, and I don't know why, but it makes me want to cry, but you're a very lovable person. And I think that some of the things that you did instinctually to kind of protect yourself from some of that other energy that you were trying to push away, maybe kind of gaslit yourself into believing you weren't lovable, and you're so lovable. So I hope that with the spiritual journey, it seems like you're receiving that love and you're finding that community. I mean, even in our email, we're finding these unlikely friendships, and it's like we've known each other forever. And and you're getting that love and creating that community too. So you're casting ripples that are going so much further than Illinois.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I have to ask, just because it kind of blended together, like how your corporate journey became your farming journey, and it bleeds into the spiritual aspect of you. But have you become comfortable with some of the things, the energies that like little Becca was not comfortable with? Have you become comfortable with like receiving that information? And what does that look like? And is there something that you're doing to kind of also kind of protect the vessel in a sense, so that it's like you're able to kind of gatekeep what energy is coming towards you or not? Or I don't know.
Yeah, it has gotten much better, and when I'm able to let those voices come through, life is much easier for me. It's such hard work and so sad to try to push them away, and I was just so afraid. And so just a couple of stories. When I was all my life, but from the time I was very small, my people told me that I don't have a poker face. Anything that I show on my face, anything I feel, it's on my face. So if I don't like someone, it's obvious. And if I do like something, it's obvious. I have a very open face. And I was always perplexed by that, because for me, I know how people are feeling. They may be masking with their face, but yeah. I just know what they're feeling. And so I thought that's what everybody was doing, was showing it on their face. But for most people, I think they're trying to mask with their face. But I just could always feel it. And so it was a lot of times you'd hear that people, their words are saying that they're happy, but you can see that they're sad, or you can see that they're resentful or angry or filled with rage. And it's very confusing. And I just was like, I'm that's not real, or that's not true. And so I just blocked it out. And as I started my journey, I started being able to read people's faces. And I put myself around people who weren't scary to me. Some people do have really bad energy, but you can choose who you're around. And I just started to get more comfortable around people. But as I was going to these crazy meetup groups, this is something funny about channeling, where I got kind of a wrong impression. But this woman was speaking about channeling. She was a channeler. And I was kind of skeptical, but I thought, I'm interested. And there was just a little seed in my head where I thought, I think I might be a channeler. I think that might be what I'm doing, is I'm channeling these voices. And so this woman, she was a very petite woman, and she seemed very light, and I really liked her. But she was talking, and she had kind of a Southern accent, and she would just talk about her journey. But she kept pausing, and she would kind of cock her head and say, "What's that, spirit?" And then she would tell the audience, "Spirit wanted me to say blah, blah, blah." But for some reason, I thought, I wish that spirit would stop interrupting her. I thought it was being rude. And I thought, I don't want some spirit to, when I'm trying to talk, I don't want spirit to come in there and like taking over my speech. I don't know. I felt very protective of her, and like, who is this pushy spirit? And so I kept thinking that people who channeled were like puppets. Like a spirit came into them and made them talk. And I was like, I don't think I want to do that. So since I've been in Illinois, I would walk around the farm, and I would want my guides to talk to me. And I would say, I'm ready to hear you. I'm ready to hear you. Please talk to me. And all they would ever say, I would hear, stop worrying so much. Everything's fine. Everything's working fine. And I would go, okay, I know, but I know everything is perfect, but please, I need help with this very specific problem. Tell me what to do. And they would go, everything's fine. Don't worry about it. And so I was so frustrated. I was just walking around going, please talk to me. Please talk to me. And now I can hear them laughing. They were saying, we don't want to interrupt. We're sorry. We don't want to interrupt.
We heard your ground rules. Well, it's like, It's like with my, because that's the other thing we connect on is our dream life. And we're doing this, we have this night shift and,
Yes.
each of us, and we're doing very different things. But that was my thing is I think my higher self was like, these are the ground rules. We are not bringing people over, crossing them over to the beyond. And it's not happening in this physical house where I live because I must have set that ground rule because I would be spookered by it or something. And then also I thought, well, shoot, if this is a negotiation, I'm going to also say, I would like to wake up and be rejuvenated as though I had a full night's sleep. If I'm doing some work, can I have that little nugget? And then when that happened, I was like, oh, and also, can you help me to remember how to make my cells 30 again? Because I'm 53. And so it's the same. And so then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I have less creaks and in the joints are working a little better. So I'm like, okay, I don't want to be greedy little pig. So I'll stop there. But that was my night work. I had these parameters and I didn't want to be surprised by it either. And I didn't want it to happen in the daytime because I think that my crossing those two parts of myself at that time would have kind of freaked me out and backed me away from that work. And so you have been doing work in your dream life and you're not doing the same work you initially were in your dream life. So maybe even start back to the beginning of that dream work and what that looked like for you and how it's evolved.
Yeah, dreams. I have been trying to use dreams for a very long time. When I drank alcohol, I had horrible nightmares that still haunt me. Just very horrible things. And that kind of stopped when I stopped drinking. But for years after I stopped drinking, I dreamed about bathrooms. And at first, the bathrooms were just covered with human waste. They were just broken and just exploded and horribly. And I would walk in and just think, oh no, what to do with all of this waste? And slowly I just kept dreaming about bathrooms. It was so boring. And then slowly they got cleaner. And finally they got clean, but there would be something like one time there was a stall. I walked into the stall and there was just like the wall of the stall went right down the middle of the toilet. So I couldn't use it. And just like, I think all of that was just cleaning out all of this bad energy that had collected on me because alcohol brings in, addiction brings in bad spirits. Yeah. I'm sure that it does. Sure. And all of that, I had to clear it out. And so I didn't have a good pathway to let go of it. And that's why all the bathrooms were clean then, but they weren't functional. Yeah. But finally, I stopped dreaming about bathrooms and I would dream about, you know how when you like looking for your social security card and you go to some old drawer that's full of papers and you have to go through all the papers and most of them are just old bank statements but you're looking for one thing that's important. I hate that. It's so frustrating. So I would dream about doing that. And I didn't even know what I was looking for and just pages and pages of old stuff. So I don't know. I think that was a kind of dream work. I don't know what I was on myself. I was like clearing, getting rid of stuff.
Sorting,
on myself.
Organizing, clearing.
Yeah. And so I did, and I had wonderful dreams too, where I dreamed about that I was completely different people. And so sometimes I would be kind of rewarded for this hard work that I would get to. I dreamed that I was a young boy who lived in India, and I just got to experience what his magical life was like. I think maybe a past life or somebody I could tap into, and it was wonderful. Mm-hmm. Anyway. So after I'm on the farm and in Illinois and, my journey really intensified. Once I got together with Jared, that amazing partner, very early on, we were driving somewhere together and I felt like we were on fast moving water. I felt like we were in a canoe that just was swooshing along. And I feel like that with him. Just as soon as we got together, everything speeded up in an effortless way. So anyway, one day, I told him in the morning, he's very magical and he's very supportive, but he doesn't maybe have the same language to talk about the stuff that we do. But sure, I told him, I got a new job. And we had a miscommunication because he thought it was like a day job. Like, Real's like, what are you doing? I thought you worked here. And so I said, no, I'm a dream worker, and I'm supposed to be repairing the grid. I'm supposed to be fixing things. And kind of one way I saw it was that from the world or from other people or from anything, negative energy would shoot towards me. And I kind of saw it like a spiral, like something negative spiraling towards me. And I would, instead of trying to absorb it or being wounded by it, and sometimes you can, like people say, hold up a mirror and shoot it back at them. But I wasn't even supposed to. You know how it is when you get a job, they like tell you what your job is. You're like, okay. And so they said, no, you got to flip that around and send it back to them, like with love and light.
Whoa. So you had to transform it into love and
shoot
light
it back
and
at
then
them.
Send it back.
Yes. And so it was like a video game where it's like I'd see it coming at me and I would go, okay, here's how we're going to flip it. And like, and see how clever I could be to like spin it around and send it back to them. And some of the time I would remember this, but kind of like you explained in that a lot of it I don't remember. I use a dream journal and I write down anything that I remember, but a lot of it, it's just like I'm aware that I have done. And sometimes I would just write in my dream journal in the morning, busy, busy, busy. I was busy all night. Busy, busy, busy. But that's really all I could remember. And so I thought that I was repairing the grid, repairing the world and making the world a better place. And I do still have a lot of dreams about working in offices, doing pointless work, which is funny because I feel like my work on the farm is extremely meaningful and immediate, tangible, growing food and giving food to people.
Absolutely.
And so I just like, why do I have to dream about all of this meaningless work? But I felt like that's still the world that most people are in. This is the world of money and corporate jobs and the matrix that we live in. And so I was trying to repair it. And recently I woke up and thought, I wrote in my dream journal, I got a promotion. But it was kind of like, my guides they kind of laugh at me and tease me. It's in a very kind way. It never seems like they're being mean, but they are just kind of blunt and think things are funny. And they were kind of like, yeah, we were just kidding. That was really just like a practice job. That's not your real job. Like, don't worry about repairing all of that. None of that stuff needs to be repaired. You need to build the new world.
Well, okay. So a couple things, because for, you had this, I had this message from my, through my dreams, and it was very clear. And I was at this like big table, right? Like a big oak dining room table with all of these, they felt like very like high spirit kind of entities. And they said that I could either pick to do like dazzly, glitzy, glittery magic, or I could do what I was meant to do, which is the magic in the mundane. And I feel like that's what your job was with those offices, is they were saying there's magic in the mundane. And I never understood it. It resonated with me. And they were like, yeah, which one do you want? And I said, well, I think magic in the mundane. I don't know what that means. So then, they showed me like, okay, we think of a piece of cloth and it's sitting in the sun, right? And the sun, we say, fades the color in it. And they said, no, you just change your perspective. The sun is imbuing it with energy, which is changing the cloth. It's filling the cloth with another energy, which takes that color and changes it, but it's not taking away from the fabric. It's actually imbuing it with new energy. And so they were saying that everything is like that. And it seems mundane. We overlook it, but it's actually where the real magic lies. Then I had this series and I didn't understand, but who's become my friend is Karen Rontowski, who's a comedian, and she was a friend of the podcast really early on. And I did a tarot reading with her. And then at the end, she said, are there any other questions you had? And I said, I don't know, I keep having this dream that, so instead of doing the office work, so, this is what I got to do in my dreams is there's this big black dog and he had mats in his fur. So I'd brush his fur and take out the mats and then I'd wash his eyes. And you know how they get the goobies on their eyes. And I'd make sure his bowl was full of crisp, cool water. And every night I would just brush his fur and take out the mats and make sure his paws were okay and, well taken care of. And I loved this dog. Like even thinking about him right now, my cheeks are turning red because I loved him. And she goes, well, that is Anubis. And Anubis he was the precursor god in Egypt to Osiris. And so he crossed people over to the other side, to the beyond. And he was that, soul. And he's sometimes portrayed as fierce or whatever, but he's a very loving God that would tenderly care for people when they're in the scariest time of possibly their meat suit life. And I went, oh, that makes so much sense. So then everything else rolled out after that. But my mundane work was just kind of giving love to him and connecting with him. And I didn't even know what I was doing in those dreams. I just was like, I'd wake up all happy because I have a dog. I've always had a dog or a cat's around and I love taking care of animals, but it just filled me with peace. So I think that, I don't know what your guides were saying is basically like, maybe you're not doing the glitzy stuff, but actually it's the real work that's helping lots more people because it's touching them in this quote unquote mundane way that's actually everything. So
yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. Yes, that is important work. And it's something that I tell people. I do energy healing sessions now. And it's another way I'm trying to build the new world is when I do sessions with people, I read their energy and channel messages to them. And what I tell them over and over and over again is that's your real work. They talk about their job jobs but a little, like one woman told me she said something like, my job is real boring. It's nothing. And I said, do you do anything creative? And I told her I'm getting Robin Williams. For some reason I'm seeing Robin Williams. Are you an entertainer? And she said, when I'm at work, sometimes I have to do these trainings and I try to make them funny. And I try to be entertaining when I do that training. And I said, that's your real job. Like, that's why you're in that job. And just helping people to find that, like, that other job.
Thing.
Yes, that's your real job. And I just tell people over and over again, keep doing that job that you're doing for money or whatever, but find your real job. That's your real job. And that's what I think is building the new world.
I think it is too. I think that very quickly what's going to happen, I think, is that the universe is, as you saw in your whole life, if you were to write a book, which I think you should do, but you write a book, it is that you're a couple things that you were able to tap into the thing that maybe it seemed easier at first, but the universe is like, you're on the right path. So when you were talking about even your partner, there's flow. You hear about the flow. Well, you didn't have flow. You had like whitewater rafting. It was so perfect. And you were just cruising. And sometimes people think, because I think this is the old matrixy kind of thing that is, it has to be hard in order for me to earn money at it. But the truth is, I keep getting this message too, that it's like, and I know that there's Rosalila Healing is one of my very favorite. He's an evolutionary astrologist, Timothy, out of North Carolina. And he's been talking about this too. I think that when your passion and what comes easily to you aligns with what the universe needs, it just flows like that. And your abundance is going to follow. And I think that's where our economy is going. I think that's where we're going to see that. We actually get to pick the thing that we are hardwired in all of these iterations of ourselves to do and offer to society. And it's like, we're going to have enough to get by because the universe is like, we need this to happen. And we've been waiting for you to step in this role. So go for it. It's there for you. So
Yeah, I think so too. I It's strange about doing these energy healing sessions. I basically read people's energy, and I think I heard somebody use the word clairsentience, which basically I just defined it as I just know what to say. I know what I know what they need to hear. And so sometimes I just have images and I just tell them, like Robin Williams, I see Robin Williams. What does that mean to you? And sometimes I just know something to say or to ask them. But they're all very different, but I'm tapping into their energy. And, I was kind of uncomfortable with it, like I told you about, that I didn't really understand channeling because I thought I didn't want to be a puppet. But now I realize that when the spirit talks through me to them, like every single time I write down what I said because it's very good advice for me. It's like very helpful.
Wow.
It helps everyone. And the people, like just like me and you talking today, I'm sure that we came together on this day because this is when we resonate. And those people who sign up for sessions with me, I'm sure that, I put a little spell on my sessions and said, if they are not going to be of benefit to people, people won't even see them. Like they won't see them on my website. When I'm at a farmer's market, I put out my little flyers about energy healing. And I was like, oh, I don't want to turn off people who will think it's weird. But then I just said, they won't even see it if it won't be of benefit to them. And they don't. I see their eyes just pass right over it. And the people who need it pick it up, and it draws them to them. So I feel like, and like you were saying, that ease, it's not that I have some great gift that I finally tapped into. I think everybody could do this. It seems very mundane. It's something I've always been able to do. I just tried to suppress it. And my guides just laugh at me and like, yeah, we've always been here. We've always been talking to you. You set all these boundaries, but we were right here. And yeah, we'll share this. It's available to everyone. I feel so connected to the people that I have sessions with.
And I love that because it's like hidden in plain sight, right? Because so last week I had to go home. I had a very difficult task because my stepfather passed away, and my mom, she was like, I said, what can I do? How can I be your hands and feet? She's like, we got to get rid of all the traces of the sick version of himself. And so we cleared the house, but that meant these 2 giant Costco boxes of medication. And my mom said, I know that you can Sharpie over it his name, but I would really like his because I was going to responsibly give it back you had to go to a big pharmacy, and then they can make sure it doesn't get into any nefarious hands. Anybody can be harmed by it, but you have to get rid of the name. So my mom said, I wanted you to cut off the name. And it became this, we watched a baseball game, another baseball game. It was like 2.5 hours, 3 hours, and I'm just cutting off his name and pulling it back. And it became this very unlikely meditation. And it was cathartic. But it was important work. I wanted to respect my mom. And then I brought it to the different places and they are recycling it. But when you were talking about, hidden in plain sight, I feel like, my mom is aware that I kind of doing things on a different level. And I'd have to go outside and just like, as I was doing it, because it's, my dad and I loved him. And it's evidence that he was a very sick person for a very long time. And we were all, my mom was in denial, but I'd go outside and put my feet on Mother Earth, and I just let it all just kind of come out of me, because there's that sticky kind of energy of sickness too, and trying to keep living, which was beautiful, but I had to just keep flushing it out. I was kind of like your bathroom series of dreams. Yes. That was me just like trying to flush it out and just get it out and wash the walls. And then I'd come back in. But it's hidden in plain sight because I think my mom is aware of her instincts are really good about certain things, but she doesn't pay much mind to maybe the spiritual stuff that I say, right? So I think that it's a beautiful way to be, is almost like you're hidden in plain sight. Your work is there for the people that need it and are seeking it and are resonating with it, and they see it on your sign. And otherwise it's like, oh, I didn't notice that. It's a great farm. I can't wait to eat the produce from here and cook the eggs. And yeah, I think that's pretty darn magical.
It's pretty magical to think of you removing his name from those medicines. Like you said, he was still attached to all of those medicines. Yeah. And instead of, if you had thrown them away, his name would stay with them, but you were separating them and actually had to do something physical to separate his energy from sticking to those medicines. It was good work.
And I hadn't even thought about it till you just said it that way. It just felt like I needed to honor my mother's wish for him. And so I was like, I respect that. And you know what? They're in a sacred circle of two right now, her and her partner of almost 50 years. And I need to abide by that. But you're exactly right. It was just physically removing that. Well, and no surprise probably to you. But then what happened next is when we got that all put away, and God bless the pharmacist at the second Rite Aid I was at, because I had, again, 2 giant boxes of this. I could emotionally keep myself together for the first place, and I filled up a bin that was as tall as a second grader, filled with the medicines. So then I had to find the other one. And that's where I used the invisibility cloak, because it was in a really tough part of town and it had to be locked because the pharmacist had to come out and like be my bodyguard while I did it. He said, sometimes because you have people that are addicted to substances, they don't know what's in your bin. And so he was in a loving way standing there. So I used my invisibility cloak to get from the parking lot into him, and then we got it done. But my invisibility cloak was so effective that he didn't even see me standing right in front of him at the pharmacy counter. And then I went, oh, shoot, I put my invisibility cloak on. So I took it off and I went, hi. So he stood with me, tenderly watched after me while I put the medicines. I had 1 box left of like lidocaine patches for pain, 1 box. And I was just watery. I was trying not to cry over my dad and just like get this task done for my mama. And he goes, the pharmacist saw this and he goes, you can't go to another place. We're going to use my secret keys. And he clicked these 2 secret keys and he opened it. He goes, give me that. And he shoved it in the bottom. And he was just so loving and it was so beautiful. But what happened next, again, no surprise to you, we came home, and after all that was purged from the house, what came forward was grief for the person that had raised me, that he wasn't sick anymore. And so now I actually got to grieve the person that was the sparkle in our family and brought the sparkle back to my mom after a bad marriage. And it was like hard, but it was fresh. You know, it's this lightness of, I just fucking miss you. Sorry to cuss, but I just fucking miss you. You know, you were a really cool person to have as a father figure. And it was just gone that other side. So that does make sense. Just pulling his energy off those bottles. Yes. Whoa. That's beautiful. So interesting. Yeah. It is. It was an unlikely meditation, and it ended up being a very therapeutic act. Yeah. We hope that, we did give, there was a bunch of like medicine, he was on home dialysis for a year and a half. And there were a lot of things that were already open. So we had to toss them. We had to throw them away because of rules. But there's a lot of them that we set aside, and they made a friend with a nurse, and they are an amazing person. And they said, anything that we can do to help your family. So I know that they're going to find those, and they're going to be treasures that are going to help maybe some mission clinics and things like that. So they're set aside and they'll be picked up, but they're outside of the house. That was the other thing. I wanted them out of my mom's space. So it's like, you can go ahead and grieve your partner being gone and not all of the trauma that went with the last couple of years. Yeah. It's very interesting. It's so,
Yeah.
and it's interesting. Even his passing has been interesting because, I'm doing this night work and
Yes.
but with him, I had to have different boundaries because it's so personal. So I said, I can help you before you actually pass away. And I created a portal where it was almost like a karmic car wash. So because I felt there was a lot of fear and I don't know what happens next. So there was a lot of clinging because he wasn't open to it. And then I knew his spirit was kind of playing, but I had a boundary on my house. So I'd come outside of my house and I'd see a quarter lying in the driveway. And it would say 1988, which is the year I graduated high school. And I'm like, I know you're playing. That was good work, good homework. And then I'd see another little penny that said 1960. And I'm like, okay, you're getting down to your birth date there. Keep going. And so I felt that from him. So then after he passed, a friend of mine who's become a friend, I'm helping him ghostwrite a book. And he reached out and he said, I don't know what this means, but Mike wanted me to tell you, oh my gosh, it's so easy now. And I went, oh, that makes perfect sense.
Wow.
So I got the message that now that he's crossed over, it's like, well, yeah, it's so easy. Thanks. I see what you did with the portal and everything over here is so easy. So it's been a nice journey.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. So I didn't even leave space for the mid-roll break because we're having so much fun talking. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about with your world building? Because I feel like you talked about some of what's happening and creating some things for the new economy, like people to kind of listen to their inner voice that says, I love doing this thing and do more of it.
Yeah, it's strange because I'm building the new world in my dream work. That's what they told me my new job is. I'm helping people to build the new world in my energy healing sessions. But it's also what I'm doing with the farm.
Yeah.
During the pandemic and all of the confusion of the past few years and war and everything,
Yeah.
Jared and I often talk about, is the world ending? Is this what happens? What's going to happen? How do we go forward? And we're trying to live very sustainably. Almost all the food that we eat is grown very locally, grown on the farm.
Yeah.
Eggs and vegetables is almost my entire diet. And so, and I preserve food all summer so that I can eat our food all winter. And we're trying to educate other people to start small farms. And we said, well, if everything goes back to normal, this is still the way we want to live. And if things don't go back to normal, let's grow our business so that we can be leaders in our community of the new world.
Yes.
If the supply chains collapse, then we can teach people how to farm again and how to sustain ourselves within our community. And so we're building that community right now. And I think food is key. It's so primal.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I'm, in all three things, I'm making the new world and helping other people to build the new world.
Exactly.
And
I feel like you guys are you would be natural teachers as well. So that goes hand in hand with it. Like you were saying, teach your community how to do this. I think that part of what led up to the pandemic was we had a disconnect between actually what the food, where it came from, how it was created or made or manufactured in a lot of ways, and how it comes into our bodies. So there was a disconnect there where I was of an age where my grandma used to say, we need chickens. Let's drive out to the farms and let's get the chickens. And she had raised chickens as a girl. And so there was very much a connection there, and you understood. And you also had a reverence for a thanking for your food. You were grateful. I mean, for the food, the sustenance, and you understood the whole process instead of just like woofing it down in a protein bar on your way in your car to your job to work 12 hours. It's pretty amazing. You're very inspiring.
Think about the energy that food has. There's an old saying that you should never eat a meal made by an angry woman. I mean, it doesn't have to be a woman. You shouldn't eat something cooked by an angry person. But imagine if you could buy food from me or from any farmer and look somebody in the eye who raised the food. You can see where the food was grown, and you can look the person in the eye. You can see if I'm happy or angry or hateful, and take that food home and eat it. It accumulates energy, just like those prescription bottles.
Totally.
Had his energy stuck to them, and you helped set him free, separate from those. And think of our food, all the trucks that it's been on, the animals who suffered going into it, the people who suffered working to produce it, angry people, sad people, sick people, all of that accumulates on it. And so when you eat, I feel like if people eat one carrot from our farm, like it changes them a tiny bit. Expands their consciousness and makes them a little bit healthier and makes them a little bit more loving, and makes them want to come back and eat another one carrot. So
and I know that to be true. If you, so on my podcast, I had Derek Condit, and he talks about the properties of shungite and how one of his favorite properties, and I do it now. I have the shungite beads, and they're in my water tank, because he said water forgets it's water when it's gone through all these pipes and done all this stuff and gone through these pumps, and sometimes they've added chemicals to it and things. So we need to remind it that it's water. It's magical water. And so shungite has the same resonance as love energy. And then you remind water what it is. And I put it in my pet's water, my water, and so your food is grown every single step of the way with that love resonance. So of course it would just take one carrot, and then probably they're repulsed if they had something else after it, right? Something like a potato chip or whatever. They'd go, this just doesn't taste as sweet and as perfect. So you are definitely changing your world building on all those different ways. So since we're hitting the top of the hour, tell people where they can find you to have a reading, to learn about your farm if they're lucky enough to live in Illinois, or even if you guys decide to offer classes online, or even just give helping hints to people where they can email you as well.
Thank you. Our website is regenerativelife.com, and that does tell about the farm. There's a blog on there with lots of writing about how we farm and all of our philosophy of farming. And so, yes, if you live in Central Illinois, come and see me. I would love to meet you. But if not, read about the farm there if you're interested in farming. Or there's a page on the regenerativelife.com called Energy Healing. And that's where you could read a little bit about the work that I do and book a session. And I would love to do a session. I have very quirky guides of my own, and almost every person I talk to, one of their guides shows up and tells me things to tell them. And it's very fascinating. And I would love to do sessions. I've done them with people from all over the country, and I would love to do more. I'd love to do it with anyone who's listening to this Curious Cat podcast, because I resonate so much with Jennifer.
That's how I feel as well.
Yes, I just know. Please come find me.
Come find her. And don't panic, I'll have all the links to all of it in the show notes, as well as the YouTube interview, because you'll get to have, if you're not in the Illinois area, you'll get to have a little overview, a little personal tour of the farm, which is just enchanting. It's just enchanting. Well, I absolutely adore you. And I am so glad you stopped by, and I already can't wait for you to come back. Please promise me you'll come back. She's nodding yes.
I would love to.
Just for the record. Oh, that's so wonderful. Oh, I'm just grateful to know you. It's an honor to know you, and I can't wait to talk again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Curious Cat. I hope you're catching all of our special Season 3 Cascadia episodes on your regular Curious Cat stream. We're venturing into California's Mount Shasta soon. It really scares me. You won't want to miss that. Until next time, stay curious. I love you.
Hey, you. Yes, you. Are you looking for a new podcast that appeals to your scientific curiosity, but is also a little bit spooky?
Show me how I died in a past life.
Well, look no further, because this cat is where it's at.
He had concerns about the ethics surrounding AI, feeling they had achieved consciousness.
Curious Cat Podcast examines the shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. Listen every week with your host, Jennifer Holtz, as she and her guests explore what it means to be a soul in a meat suit.
We were healing karma together. They were all kind of predestined to resolve something.
Listen on all your favorite streaming apps and continue the conversation on Twitter at CuriousCatPodCA, or find Jennifer and all her links at Jennifer L. Holtz, spelled HOTES.com.